Listen, before we start this, this is a sensitive material. So if you're not really interested in sensitive material, if you can't handle it, this is a good time to stop and watch something else. Because this video is about what it's like to live with a almost terminal cancer patient as a spouse and as a father and as whatever. Why don't we start at the beginning? First, let's understand what cancer really is. Cancer is a fucked up disease. And you have stages in cancer. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 stages of cancer. Stage 1 and 2, 1 being you have a small little thing that they can actually cut out more or less immediately, and you'll be 98% of the time you'll be cleared of that. It's rough. I don't know. It's rough to say. It's not exactly true, but mostly. Stage 2, it probably got a little bigger. Stage 3, it's got a little bit bigger. Maybe it's about to spread. In stage 4, yeah, that is multiple spreading. Like in my wife's case, we'll get to that. Now, one morning or afternoon, I came home, from work, and my wife sat there on the kitchen table, not on the table, on a stool, of course, but crouched over and didn't really feel that well. Of course, I asked her if she wanted to go to the hospital, and she said yes, and which she grabbed the car and went by herself. At that time, I thought, like, okay, this is pretty weird. I mean, if you got something wrong with your heart, it's probably not a good idea to drive, but okay. She wanted to go, and she did, and I stayed home with our 2 kids, 6 and 9 now. At that time, yeah, 3.5 and 6. And she didn't come home that day, and I got a little worried, of course. I mean, why not worry when your spouse or whatever gets to go away like that and doesn't really respond to anything? So I text her and do whatever, no response. So I get a little worried. I must say, I get a little extra worried. So the next day, I get a call, or not a call, but a text that says, I'm no longer in Slagelse. I am now in Roskilde for a further analysis. So, but we're more than welcome to visit if you want to. I said, okay, so let's go visit. And then at that time, they knew absolutely nothing. So we went to Roskilde and we talked to some of the doctor came over, and he said, well, it's not leukemia, but you have absolutely no blood cells left in your body. She was actually so far down in blood cells, what you call thrombocyter and leukocyter, that she needed blood transfusions. She had 6 the first day, 6 boys and girls, to get it up to a level where she could actually, well, I wouldn't say survive because she already did that, but sustain herself without dying. Sorry. So they took tests, more and more tests, and eventually they found that she had, because that's how it comes, breast cancer with metastases, as they call it, that it's spread out. So it's spread out to a lung, it's spread out to lymph nodes, it's spread out to bone marrow, a bit in the lung. Did I say lung? Let's just say that again, lung as well. Yeah, and at that time. So that wasn't so good. Like, that was really bad. Which means that now we are already entering stage 4 cancer. Well, that was hard. The second thing is that they found was the size of the cancer cell in the left breast, or is the right, I don't know anymore. That was measured to be 3.5 centimeter, roughly this big, in the breast. And it's spreading rapidly. So far so good. It's contained, as you can say, it's contained from the breast and whatever. So and they can contain it. And they found a chemotherapy cure, whatever. So she started on that, and things start to digress or get better, or whatever you call it. So you can't cure it when you're stage 4, but you can sustain life for quite sometimes. Sorry. And she was given the prognosis of roughly. Well, they didn't really tell her that she would get a specific amount of time, but they told her that she would probably get to see her kids grow up. And in her head, what she heard was 10, 15 years maybe. That might not be the case, but I know that, and other people know that. Anyways, in Denmark, when you get cancer, you go through a series of tests, and this is of course all paid for by your taxes, so it's absolutely free for you. You get a schematic about what to do and when to do it and how to do it, and they give you a plan and they stick to that plan, and it's fantastic. So from the moment that she got diagnosed to move to the second hospital to get more tests, to have that thing diagnosed and to know exactly what they're dealing with, and to get the first treatment of chemotherapy was less than a week. That's pretty good. And the best part is of all this, if you could say it like that, is that it's costless. It's costless, absolutely bupkis. But that doesn't cure cancer though, but it contains life on a bed. So what did she really feel like when she told that? Of course, first she was devastated and cried a lot. Who can blame her? So did the rest of us. And the kids, I have tried to explain to them in a level that a child might understand that mommy is now very sick. So, cognitively, so far, she had more peace, if you could say so, because now she knows why she had it the way she had, and she could actually feel that she was getting better because of treatment. Then, after a year or so, the cancer spread even more. And now the cancer spread to the brain. This time, they're going to use X-rays or ray machine or whatever. So they're going to shoot the cancer cell with a ray gun. They can do that. They can actually pinpoint to the 0.5 millimeter inside of your brain with a laser beam that's emitting some sort of ray. Yeah. So she got into Copenhagen, where they are experts at using machinery like that. And she got fixated, as you can call it. Her head was fixated so it wouldn't move. And they made a lot of tests, and they shot her 4 times with that machine there. And it hit at them spots right straight on. Sorry. So we went back. She had 1 trip, and that's it. And they said they should be gone by then. Okay. So we come home, and after a few weeks or whatever, she starts feeling better. And of course, I can feel some change in her. Like something's off a little bit, because whenever you get shot in the head with a ray gun, there's obviously going to be some damage. So Leslie, as my wife is called, was a little bit starting to, just not be Leslie anymore, but to become more agitated and more, let's just say, aggressive maybe also. Yeah. Controlling maybe also. I don't know, but it's something like that, right? So, but things turned out to be okay, and things progressed, and everything looked to be still on plan. Then after a few years here, a year later, more or less, so now we're up to 2.5 years, almost 3, we got the news that the cancer cells in her brain has developed to double the size, and now there's 10 of them. I forgot to mention, sorry, let's skip that part a bit. Remember that though, that's now. But all of a sudden there were more cancer cells. And in order to stop that, they did what they call a sweep. So they took ray from here all the way through the head here 10 times. 10 times, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure that that would not progress. And now back to what happened, because it did. So now, instead of having to deal with 4 or 5 lumps in the head, we now have to deal with 4 or 5 lumps there that is doubled in size, and 10 new in the head. And you can't use the ray gun anymore, because they do that, they're going to shoot her brain so much into mush that she will just become a vegetable. She'll be sitting in a chair drooling in a corner and not really having life anymore. Well, she will be alive, but not really, right? So that's off. So now what do? We change chemotherapy and see if that can help in any way. That chemotherapy was supposedly brand new, US made. She couldn't handle that kind of chemotherapy, apparently, because she now has developed shortness of breath, and there's a lot of other things that's physically gone wrong. But guys, you have to remember, when you get shot in the head with a ray gun, cognitively and the brain functions, they start to deteriorate. And it's not just a little bit, it's rapidly. So it's like, if you imagine that today you can remember your name, and in 20 minutes you can't. That if you want to express how happy you are, sometimes you express this in anger. It doesn't make sense, but none of this makes sense for the head. So all the cognitives are sit right here. And the way you talk to people and the way you understand it and have relationships with other people, gone. So the children and I, how do we deal with this? Well, we know the fact that we know why mommy reacts the way mommy does. That does not make it fun. But I sometimes take my boys out one by one and explain to them why mommy is the way mommy is. And if they have questions, I always answer them. And you have to do that, guys. You have to tell your children what's going on. Otherwise, they will think it's something they did. Children are like that. Maybe they'll even think it's their fault. And it's not their fault. It's nobody's fault. It's not my fault. It's not Leslie's fault, my wife's fault. It's no one's fault. Shit just happens, right? But I do that sometimes still. The only trouble is, you see, my wife gets a lot of help from everywhere. However, she can choose not to take it, which means that if it's called palliative, which means it's some sort of, they're trying to relieve your cognitive, your emotional states and help you out in any way possible. Not physically, that's the hospital's job to do that, but mentally, they're trying to prepare you to the day where you no longer here anymore. And still, my wife thinks she's got plenty of years left, like 10, 15 years, even though I know that that's not the case. When you're stage 4, you have incurable cancer. You got brain cancer now that is rapidly getting worse and worse. We're not talking many years. We're talking about months, perhaps a year, if she's lucky. So how does that make me feel? Well, I think you can imagine that if someone you love is not there anymore, she's just gone. You just got deteriorated, or you just did, what do you call it? Not deteriorated. I would call it, I went from being a husband to become the caretaker, which I have no problem doing, but emotionally and physically, it's you don't have the same as you had before. And again, of course, why would you? naturally. But firstly, we used to, cuddle a lot. We don't do that anymore because, well, either it's painful or she doesn't feel that it's doesn't feel sexy or whatever. Yeah. Um, there's a lot of mental blockades in her head. So I can't really touch her anymore. So that's kind of it. I mean, sex is one thing. I mean, come on, the cuddling where you just hold each other, and just to get that feeling of security, love. I don't get that anymore. That's done. And I miss it. Yeah. So what's left of my wife is just a shell, an empty shell actually, and it's hard to watch. And most guys would probably just say, "Well, fuck this," and vacate the premises and say, "Well, I can do better somewhere on my own." And I probably could. I'm not that kind of guy. So how do I cope? Well, I have a very special friend. You know who we are, if you watch this. She means the world to me. And we can talk about everything, and we do talk about everything. She's been going through hell as well as I have. Well, with a different aspect of her life, and we compromise each other pretty good. But you need to have someone that will listen and tell you sometimes that you're a fucking idiot, or lend you that shoulder, and you can just cry on it because, yeah, I might be a dude, but I'm also sensitive. I mean, I know that when in the next maybe year, I'm gonna put it to the grave, yeah? And I'm gonna be alone with 2 kids and try to explain to them why life is unfair. That's gonna be hard. So, to recap, if you can say it like that, yeah, just imagine you're going from here to have a functioning person that's your mate, that's your friend, that's your whatever, yeah, to 2 years after, 3 years after, is no longer there, just gone. The shell is there, but the inside is just vanished. That is, ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty hard. And in Denmark, you're not really, as a spouse or a whatever, if you're not the patient, you're not really offered much. We got something called Kræftens, which is an organization that deals with cancer in a private company that works on donations and whatever. And they have a lot of shrinks and have a lot of shit, yeah. But they don't really deal with the pre-match. They deal with the after-match. So I was given opportunities to take my children to courses for children and people who already lost their wives or husband or mom or dad. And I thought to myself, that is not really beneficial for my boys right now. She will die soon enough, and we can do that after that. But right now, they don't need to have that kind of worry. So I said, no. You can write on the comments if you thought I was a fucking idiot. I don't think so. I think the real issue right now is trying to live life, not just survive, but live it. But I have to do that on my own with my kids because my wife can't join anymore. She's not there. She's just, as I told you, she's an empty shell, and it's painful. Yeah. So there's no happy ending to this, which is what I said in the beginning. This is a sensitive video because you won't find any happiness in any of this. You'll find relief sometimes. Okay, so you can actually postpone death for quite a while, but it will always be there. It'll be ready, and it will eat you up. And the people standing right next to you will also be eaten up. I'm not saying that I haven't. Once I was 220, 240, well, that's in pounds, 120 kilograms of flesh, right? I lost 10 kilograms already just because of worry the last 4 weeks because of the latest news with the whatever. So it's hard, and you stand very much alone. But as I told you, you can be two people. You can be the jerk who says, I have to deal with me, and then just leave. Or you can see the big picture, which is very hard sometimes. But to see this to the end, for your sake, for your children's sake, for your wife or husband's sake, even though how hard it might be, I think it's the right way to go. I actually promised my son, Gabriel, my biggest one, he said, we're going to stay, we're going to do this together, aren't we? I said, yes, we are, all the way. So, yeah. It's rough, it's durable, it's rough. And the next video, we'll probably be doing in a couple of months, maybe more, about this, and maybe it's about preparation for the worst. Let's see. Take care of each other. You don't know how long you got.